Hey guys, tonight we're starting somewhere soft, like linoleum under your feet. Somewhere quiet, like the inside of a house where someone's gone missing, but no one's really talking about it. And somewhere cold, not from the weather, but from the way a 4-year-old looks you dead in the eye and says something so wrong, it wraps around your spine and refuses to let go. You're standing in the kitchen of a neat, blue-sided house in a sleepy cul-de-sac, sipping stale coffee with too much powdered creamer, when Lena tugs at your sleeve. Her voice is small. No drama. No fear. Just certain. Daddy's not dead. He's under the floor. And just like that, the air stops moving. You blink. You stare at her. The steam from your coffee curls upward like it's trying to escape the room. You bend slightly. Not sure you heard right. What did you say? Sweetheart. But Lena just smiles politely and skips away, clutching a ragged stuffed unicorn. The carpet muffles her steps. The refrigerator hums. And that one square of tile just left of the kitchen island suddenly feels too clean, too bright, too new. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time is it there right now? Let's lower the lights. Let the gentle hum of the fans soothe you, and drift quietly into tonight's story. You stay in that kitchen long after the coffee goes cold. The wallpaper's peeling a little above the window. There's a hairline crack in the grout by the baseboard. And that tile, it doesn't match. No one's mentioned Michael's disappearance yet. You're just here as a family liaison. A quiet observer while Elise, the widow in waiting, bakes banana bread and answers soft questions with a steady voice. She's elegant, detached. But Lena's words are the only ones that don't feel rehearsed. You watch the little girl disappear down the hallway, trailing sleep and secrets. And suddenly you feel like you're the one who's said too much. Like you might be the one being watched now. Later that evening, when Elise finally speaks of Michael, her husband, her voice doesn't falter. He's done this before, she says. Left for a few days. He gets overwhelmed. He just needs space. But she says it while slicing the banana bread so thin it's nearly transparent. Her smile never fully reaches her eyes. And when Lena drops her fork at the dinner table and says again, quietly, he's still here. He didn't go anywhere. No one corrects her. The psychologist part of your brain kicks in compartmentalization, repression, early trauma. You file it under imaginative children. But something about Lena's tone gnaws at the edges of that logic. You've heard stories like this before. Kindergartners who draw monsters with their father's eyes. Toddlers who say, Daddy lives in the dark now. Usually, it's metaphor. Usually, it's grief misfiring in colorful ways. But not always. Did you know that in a study of children exposed to trauma before age 5, over 60% displayed symptoms that mimicked schizophrenia, vivid hallucinations, rewritten memories, emotional dissociation? Psychologists still debate whether these signs are protective instincts or early signs of deeper fragmentation. And here's a quirky little fact. In Iceland, some people still believe in Huldufolk hidden folk who live beneath rocks and floors. People build around them, respect them, fear them. Maybe Lena's seen too many fairy tales. Or maybe she hasn't seen enough. You lie awake in the guest room that night, listening, wondering. Elise walks softly barefoot. No creaks, but once, near midnight, you hear a faint thump, a drop, like something shifting under pressure, something settling where it shouldn't be. You don't sleep much after that. By morning, Lena's outside in the yard, pressing dandelions into mud. She hums. Her shoes are mismatched. Her mother braids her hair in silence. Too tight at the temples. Elise looks like she's made of marble. And when the officer drops by for a wellness check, asking routine questions, Elise's answers come too quickly. Too prepared. He left at night. No note. Just vanished. He's done it before. But she doesn't mention the new tile. She doesn't mention Lena's bedtime stories. She doesn't mention the way her hand shook when she offered the banana bread. The one slice she didn't eat. And you foolishly, quietly don't either. But the seed is planted. You find yourself drifting back to the kitchen like gravity's shifted. You count the tiles. You tap them lightly. One sounds different, hollow. You wonder if grief ever actually sounds like silence or if it sounds like this. Later, Lena brings you a drawing. It's crude, messy. A square, a stick figure with X's for eyes beneath it, a line of red. The title, in big blocky letters, says, Daddy is sleeping. And still, Elise just smiles and says, she has such an imagination. You take the picture anyway, because somewhere inside, you already know you'll need it. You wake to the sound of silence. The kind that isn't really quiet, just padded, as if the air itself is holding its breath. The sun pours through gauzy curtains, casting long, yellow bars across the hallway carpet. There's cereal in the bowl Lena left behind, already soggy. Her tiny shoes rest by the door. One pink, one blue. No one else seems to find that strange. Michael, you whisper his name in your head like it's a word that might open a door. But nothing opens. Elise is already seated at the dining table, sipping tea. Today it's chamomile. Her hair is braided in a crown across her head, too tightly, as if even a stray strand might unravel her. You can't decide if she's remarkably composed or performing grief for an invisible audience. Probably both. He always needed to escape, she says without prompting, and staring out the window. There's a pattern. He'd leave for days, once a week, then just reappear? Like nothing happened. No explanation. You nod politely. Jot down words that don't help. Unpredictable. Unstable. Avoidance behaviors? But none of it feels like it belongs to the man in Lena's drawings. The man smiling, holding a spatula, wearing an apron with a superhero logo. There's love in those lines. And loss. And something else. To fear. Elisa's teacup rattles slightly when she sets it down. You know, she says, her voice deceptively even. He wasn't easy to live with. It wasn't all just poof. He's gone. There were arguments. We had problems. Everyone does. But I didn't hurt him. If that's what people are thinking, you hadn't asked. Now you are. That afternoon, you speak with a neighbor across the street, a thin man named Barry who waters his roses too aggressively. He leans against the fence like gossip is his profession. He was a good guy. Michael, Barry says, polite. Always mowed the lawn when mine got out of hand. Bit quiet. Though shy. Maybe. But Elise? Sharp. Too sharp sometimes. You ask if he noticed anything the night Michael vanished. Barry hesitates. Heard something. Like furniture scraping? Around 3A. Thought maybe they were moving stuff. But it was weird. Sounded heavy. Heavy. Like dragging something. You ask Lena about it later. Just gently. Indirectly. She's stacking blocks in the living room. But she looks up with those two old eyes. Mommy was loud that night, she says. She dropped Daddy. He said ouch, and then he didn't talk anymore. And the room tilts. You don't flinch. You can't. You're supposed to be the calm one. The responsible one. The adult who knows the difference between imagination and memory. But the way Lena says it, it's not pretend. It's just a retelling. You lean in slightly. Where did she drop him? Sweetie. Lena points toward the kitchen. Not at the fridge. Not at the door. Right at the tile that doesn't match. The next day, Elise calls in a missing persons report officially. You watch her answer the officer's questions. And you realize she has a script. Short sentences. Long blinks. Calculated pauses. But she slips. Just once. When the officer asks what Michael was wearing the night he left. Elise says his blue flannel pajamas. Then, with a thin smile, she adds, I think. But you remember the laundry basket had the flannel folded neatly inside it. Unworn. Small things unravel bigger truths. Back in the kitchen. You stand over the square tile again. It's paler than the rest. New grout. You wonder how many lies you could hide in a single square foot of floor. 10, 20? Did you know the human body can be compacted down to less than 2% of its original volume with enough pressure, moisture, and time? Psychologists still debate whether people repress the truth because they're afraid of punishment or afraid of what the truth will cost them emotionally. Here's a strange little tidbit. In Victorian England, some families used to keep photos of the deceased posed as if still alive, eyes painted open, seated in chairs. Grief, in its strangest forms, has always worn a disguise. You think about Elise's baking, the polite mourning, the perfectly timed tissue dabs. She hasn't cried, not once. But maybe that's just another form of posing, and that night, Lena draws another picture. This one has a red circle, a big pan, and Mommy holding it high. She was mad. Lena says simply, you tuck the picture away like evidence. Because at this point, that's what it is. The next morning, you walk past the kitchen and stop cold. Elise is scrubbing the grout again. Hard. Vigorously. Like the stain isn't physical, but she's trying to erase it anyway. You don't say anything. But you're done pretending. The floor remembers. And now, you do too. Not to pray. Not yet. But to listen. The tile beneath your palm feels cold and oddly slick. Like it hasn't settled into its place yet. You press your ear against it, ridiculous. You tell yourself, but still. You do it. And there, through the silence of the house and the blood rushing in your ears, you swear you hear it? Not a voice. Not a moan. Just a shift, a creak like breath. Like something inside the floor isn't quite still. How many things can a child remember that adults choose to forget? And how often do we dismiss their truths because they arrive wrapped in crayon lines and peanut butter smudges? Lena doesn't speak much today. She carries her stuffed bear around like it's a shield, whispering into its plastic ear. You crouch beside her while she colors, trying to make the question sound like a game. What's your bear's name? She doesn't look up. Bear knows the secret. He doesn't want to talk about it. You glance at the bear. Its eyes are scratched from years of loving wear. Somehow, it looks complicit. You try again. Can Bear tell me what happened to Daddy? Lena leans close to your ear, conspiratorial. Daddy went to sleep. Mommy said he wouldn't wake up because he was bad. The words are delivered so matter-of-factly. Your stomach flips. You try to smile. Fail. And what did Bear say? Bear said we should tell you, she whispers. But Mommy said the floor is a better secret keeper. You look at Lena's drawings again. There's a new one on the fridge now. A stick figure beneath a brown rectangle, arms sticking up like branches, or maybe like someone waving goodbye from below. You start the paperwork. You file the right requests, and you wait, and wait, until the permit to excavate the floor arrives approved. Stamped. Routine. Like you're asking to install a dishwasher, not exhume the weight of an entire family's history. The police are quiet at first, almost skeptical. But that pale tile, they begin to drill. Dust clouds the air in thick gray swirls. Like chalk grief. The moment the saw touches grout, Lena leaves the room and sits cross-legged in the hallway, hugging Bear so tight his seams stretch. Elise watches, arms crossed. You're destroying my kitchen, she says. You glance up. No, you reply. We're looking for your husband. The first thing they find is a corner of denim, then a torn shirt sleeve, and finally flesh. What's left of it? The smell isn't as bad as you expect. The plastic sheeting bought Elise time, but not forever. Even secrets wrapped in polyethylene still breathe eventually. Elise's face collapses into her hands. It's the first time she seems truly human. Not guilty, not cruel, just exhausted, as if she's been living in the pressure of this moment for far too long. And it's finally cracked her open. One officer stares at you. The daughter knew. You nod, she told us. They lower their voices. She said he's under the floor. Did you know that according to ancient Roman tradition, houses were believed to be spiritually unclean if a death occurred inside them? That's why they'd purify homes with fire or animal blood. It wasn't about the body. It was about the story trapped in the walls. Psychologists still debate whether children retain traumatic memories clearly or reshape them over time to survive. And Lena, she remembers everything. The next morning, Elise is gone, not fled. Arrested. They take her away with surprising calm. She doesn't resist, just asks to grab her coat and kisses Lena's forehead. You expect tears, rage, collapse, but Lena just watches. Not blankly, no. Something sharper. Relief. You realize Lena has been parenting herself, keeping secrets to protect the grown-up, playing quiet to stay safe. There's a drawing on the floor that Bear must have knocked loose. It's a picture of Lena, alone, and beneath her feet, a square, red, angry scribbles below. You tuck it into your coat pocket. Later, you sit with her on the porch. The air is warm. Bees hum somewhere in the garden. She rests her head on your shoulder and asks, will Daddy still be under the floor when I'm big? No, you tell her. He's going somewhere safe now. She nods, as if she already knew. You wonder how many things she still hasn't said. How many stories you'll have to earn. One whisper at a time. You visit the morgue. Not because you have to, but because no one else will. The room is as sterile as silence. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, slicing every shadow into a neat line. The technician pulls the drawer open with the casual precision of someone who has done this too many times to care. There he is. What's left of him? Michael. Or rather, the person who once carried his name. You brace for horror. But it doesn't come the way you expect. It's not the bruising or the decay. It's his expression or what remains of it. There's something in the curve of his mouth, the frozen slack of it. Not fear, not pain, acceptance. As though, in those final moments, he saw it coming and chose not to fight.
Why?
The question clings to your ribs. Back home, Lena watches cartoons with Bear beside her. She's calm, as though still, unnaturally quiet. Like a house after the storm, but before the cleanup. You sit beside her, feeling her small shoulder press against yours. She doesn't say anything for a while. Then she asks, is Daddy warm now? You swallow. Yes, sweetie, he is. That night, you can't sleep. You lie awake tracing the ceiling's imperfections with your eyes, listening to the hum of the refrigerator like it's whispering secrets. You can't stop thinking about Elise. How does a woman go from wife to killer? You read everything. Court documents, marriage licenses, psychiatric assessments. There's a gap in the story wide enough to fall through. But then you find the journals, Michael's journals, tucked in a box Elise left behind. You're not supposed to have them, but when something this important is buried, you don't wait for permission. The entries start ordinary: grocery lists, work frustrations, little doodles in the margins. Then something shifts. Elise hasn't slept in 3 nights. Keeps watching the hallway. Says someone's whispering to her from the vent. I think she's unraveling. Lena had a bruise. She said Mommy pushed her. Elise says she's clumsy, but Lena never lies to me. I think she's scared of Elise. And honestly, so am I. You sit back, cold all over. Michael knew. He saw it coming. And he stayed. Why? Because of Lena. Because he hoped Elise would change. Or because victims don't always recognize they're allowed to leave. Did you know that in some species of birds, mates will continue feeding a dead partner for days, unable to accept the loss? Grief in the animal kingdom is often misunderstood, but it exists. In rituals, in silence, in refusal. Psychologists still debate whether abusers always intend harm or whether their behavior is a twisted but unconscious echo of their own trauma. But trauma doesn't excuse it. It just makes the map harder to follow. You remember something Barry said the neighbor? Michael was quiet. It echoes now with new weight. Sometimes people stay quiet because they believe the pain is temporary. Sometimes they think protecting others means absorbing every bruise in silence. Sometimes the floor isn't just a hiding place, it's a metaphor. You revisit the kitchen. This time, not to investigate, just to stand. You imagine Michael standing here, making pancakes for Lena. You imagine Elise walking in behind him, holding that cast iron pan, not angry, not shouting, just still. That's the part that haunts you. The quiet. You once read that the most dangerous storms don't roar, they whisper. They change pressure slowly. They lull you into staying. You step forward, the space beneath your feet feels hollow. Even now. But Michael isn't there anymore. He's elsewhere. Lena draws again. This time, it's her and Daddy in the clouds. There's a bear in the corner, watching. What's this one? You ask, pointing to a jagged orange shape in the middle. That's the fire Mommy didn't start. You freeze. What fire? She blinks slowly. She wanted to burn the house after. But the matches got wet. You stare at the drawing. Lena continues coloring. She said if the fire came, we wouldn't have to remember. You put the crayon down gently. The story is deeper than you thought. Worse than you feared. But now it's coming to light. And maybe, just maybe, Lena won't have to carry it alone anymore. The courtroom smells of polished wood and bitter coffee, an atmosphere thick with judgment and regret. You take your seat, the chair creaking under you like a sigh. Lena's hand finds yours. Her grip is a fragile lifeline, both tentative and fierce. She's your anchor in this storm of whispered accusations and heavy silences. Elise enters, not the fiery villain you imagined, but a woman unraveling. Her eyes glassy, haunted. Her voice shakes as she begins to speak. Fragments of a confession slipping out like shadows fleeing the light. I never meant for it to go this far. She says, I just wanted him to listen. You watch Lena's face, still so young, yet bearing the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. And then the prosecutor brings out the video, the one no one wanted to see, but everyone needed to. Grainy footage of Elise carrying Lena at 3 in the morning. The house silent but for the echo of footsteps and heavy breaths. The camera doesn't lie. Neither does Lena. Her voice, small but unwavering, cuts through the courtroom air. Mommy hit Daddy with the pan. I told her not to, but she said it was his fault. You feel the room shift. A collective intake of breath. The sudden silence before a storm. You wonder how much Lena has internalized. How deeply trauma can nest within a child's soul, twisting reality and love into an indistinguishable knot. Did you know that children exposed to domestic violence often develop what's called trauma bonding? A complex attachment to their abuser, mingled with fear and affection. Psychologists still debate whether this bond is a survival mechanism or a deeper emotional imprint. And Lena, she is both the victim and the key to unlocking this painful truth. The defense attorney stands, trying to paint Elise as a broken woman, a victim of her own unseen demons. But the jury doesn't seem swayed. Evidence piles up. Threatening texts, financial manipulations, whispered threats behind closed doors. Yet, it's Lena's testimony that cuts through the noise. You catch yourself imagining her internal battle, torn between loyalty to a mother she once loved and the haunting knowledge of her father's final moments beneath the floorboards. Outside the courtroom, the press swarm, hungry for sensational headlines. You shield Lena, but you know, the real battle is just beginning for her heart, for her future. At night, You replay the day's events, questioning the justice system's ability to heal what's broken. You ask yourself, can the law mend a child's fractured innocence? A strange thought crosses your mind. What if the floorboards beneath Lena's feet could whisper back the secrets they hold? Would they scream for justice or hum a lullaby of forgotten pain? You brush a stray hair from Lena's face and promise silently, we'll find a way through this. The journey of resilience is just beginning. The days after the trial feel suspended like walking underwater, every breath heavier than the last. You watch Lena retreat into herself, her laughter a distant echo fading from memory. The house, once a place of shelter, now echoes with silence. Each empty room a reminder of what's been lost. You sit beside her at the kitchen table, tracing the lines of her latest drawing, two figures holding hands. One smaller, one larger, but both shadowed by a looming black cloud. Tell me about the cloud. You say softly. She looks up, eyes shimmering. That's the secret. It follows me. You want to reach out, to hold that secret and squeeze it until it loses its power. But secrets are slippery like smoke slipping through clenched fists. You remember a fact you read recently. Trauma can alter a child's brain structure, shrinking the hippocampus, the area that processes memory and emotion. It explains why Lena's memories are fragmented, why her fears often surface in shadows and dreams. But there's another side to trauma resilience, a flicker of light in the darkest night. You decide to introduce Lena to therapy, but it's not easy. The first few sessions are met with silence or tears. She clings to Bear like a lifeline, her voice barely a whisper. Then, one afternoon, something shifts. She begins to tell you about the garden, a place she imagines where she can hide, but also where she feels safe. You close your eyes and ask her to describe it. There are flowers that glow, she says, and a big tree that holds all the secrets. The tree listens. It strikes you how children create sanctuaries in their minds to survive horrors they can't escape in reality. You wonder, what if you could become that tree for Lena? The silent guardian holding her stories, keeping her secrets safe until she's ready to tell them aloud. Meanwhile, the community watches, neighbors whisper, some with sympathy, others with suspicion. A few avoid your gaze altogether. You overhear Barry, the quiet neighbor, muttering about how some wounds never heal. But you know better. Wounds can scar, but they can also teach us how to grow stronger. You notice Lena's drawings change colors, become brighter, figures more defined. It's subtle, but it's there. She begins to sleep better, no longer clutching Bear like a life raft. One evening, she asks if Bear can have a friend. You smile. Maybe he already does. You bring home a second stuffed animal, a little fox, sly and watchful. Lena names him Whisper. The fox and the bear sit side by side on her bed, silent sentinels in a world still uncertain but slowly healing. Did you know that children often use play therapy as a natural way to process trauma? Psychologists still debate whether this method reaches the core or just skirts around the edges of pain. But for Lena, it's a start. One night, you catch her talking to Bear and Whisper. I'm okay now, she says. The secret's smaller. You lean back, heart heavy but hopeful, because in the quiet growth of a child's healing, you witness the extraordinary power of resilience. And maybe, just maybe, the secret isn't a weight to carry forever, but a seed for something new. The seasons shift quietly outside your window, mirroring the slow, uneven rhythm of healing within these walls. Lena's footsteps grow steadier, her smiles less guarded. But beneath her brave face, you sense the lingering shadows, a trauma that whispers in the cracks of her laughter, waits patiently in the pauses between words. One afternoon, while sorting through old boxes in the attic, you uncover a small, dust-covered music box. You wind it up and the delicate melody spills into the air, fragile and haunting. Lena's eyes widen. Daddy's, she whispers. You hadn't known Michael left something behind, a simple token from a happier time. The music stirs something in Lena, a flicker of connection to a past she barely remembers but deeply feels. That night, she clutches the box tight as she drifts into sleep, her breathing easing into a peaceful rhythm. You think about the complexity of memory, how trauma distorts, fragments, but also preserves. Psychologists still debate whether traumatic memories are stored differently, locked away to protect us or to imprison us. Meanwhile, Elise's absence leaves a void and eerie quiet where anger once echoed. The community's gaze softens toward Lena, some reaching out with hesitant kindness. Barry drops by unexpectedly, bearing a plate of cookies and a quiet apology for his earlier coldness. You're not alone, he says simply. His words linger. In therapy, Lena begins to explore the garden more deeply, describing hidden paths and secret doors. You listen, wondering if these imagined places are her mind's way of making sense of chaos. One day, she says, the tree told me a secret. Your breath catches. What secret? That sometimes, when people hurt, they don't know how to say it right. But it's still not okay to hurt others. You nod, heart aching, the wisdom of a child, distilled from pain and hope. You recall a quirky fact. In some cultures, storytelling trees are believed to absorb sorrow and transform it into strength, a comforting myth that parallels Lena's inner world. You wonder if, like those trees, you too can absorb some of her sorrow, helping it bloom into resilience. Late at night, you catch yourself dreaming of Michael, not the victim, but the man he was before silence swallowed his voice. You imagine him in the kitchen, laughing with Lena, the music box playing softly in the background. But then, the floorboards creak. You snap awake. Is it memory or imagination? The line blurs. You realize healing isn't linear. It's a dance of light and shadow, of loss and rediscovery. And as Lena sleeps, clutching her barren fox, you promise yourself to be the steady presence she needs the tree. The music, the silent echo that holds her until she finds her own voice again. Morning light filters through the curtains, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers across the floor. Silent reminders of all that lingers unseen. You watch Lena at the breakfast table, her small hands trembling slightly as she pours cereal. The weight of silence between you feels heavy, a quiet tension that neither of you knows how to break. Then she looks up, eyes wide and urgent. Why did Mommy hurt Daddy? The question pierces through the fragile calm. Raw and unfiltered, you pause, searching for words that won't shatter her trust. Sometimes, people are hurting inside and don't know how to show it in a safe way. You say gently, but that never makes hurting others okay. Lena nods slowly, chewing on your answer like a bitter truth she's tasting for the first time. You remember reading that children exposed to parental conflict often carry complex guilt, believing they caused the pain. Psychologists still debate whether addressing this guilt openly or letting children find their own path to understanding is better. You decide honesty, tempered with care, is the path forward. Later, Lena pulls out her drawings, a mix of bright colors and dark swirls. Can you help me make a story about this one? She asks. You lean in, and together you weave a tale of a brave little fox and a gentle bear who find a magical tree that listens to secrets and helps heal wounds. As you speak, you realize storytelling is more than distraction. It's a bridge between her world and yours, a way to name fears and hopes without words. That night, you notice Lena sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. The music box nestled beside her like a talisman. But then the phone rings. It's Elise. Her voice trembles, a mixture of remorse and confusion. I don't know how to fix this, she admits, but I want to try. You wonder if forgiveness is possible, or even necessary, for healing to begin. A quirky fact comes to mind. Some therapeutic models suggest that reconciliation can sometimes hinder recovery, especially if the abuser isn't truly remorseful. Psychologists still debate whether forgiveness should be encouraged or approached cautiously. You consider your own feelings, the anger, the sadness, the faint hope. Maybe healing isn't about fixing the past, but learning to live despite it. You tell Elise you'll think about it and hang up. The weight of responsibility settling on your shoulders. You ask yourself, can Lena's story ever have a happy ending? Or is she forever tied to the shadows beneath the floor? The fox and the bear sit silently on her bed, witnesses to a child's fragile journey toward the light. You wake to the sound of rain tapping against the window, a steady, rhythmic pattering that matches the slow, steady pulse of your thoughts. Lena sits cross-legged on the floor, Bear and Whisper nestled beside her. Her eyes are distant, lost in some private world you can't reach yet. You hesitate, then ask, what are you thinking about? She shrugs, then quietly says, I'm wondering if Daddy knew Mommy was sad. The question lingers, heavy and complex. It strikes you how trauma doesn't just fracture memories. It twists them into riddles with no clear answers. You think of a fact from trauma psychology. Victims and perpetrators often share cycles of unspoken pain, leaving children caught in the crossfire. Psychologists still debate whether acknowledging this shared suffering helps or hinders healing. You wonder how Lena will make sense of this tangled web. You decide to introduce her to journaling, a way to capture the thoughts she can't say aloud. At first, she hesitates, but then she begins to write, drawing pictures and scribbling words that feel like whispers from her soul. One entry catches your eye, a drawing of a tree with roots tangled around a heart. The words, sometimes love hurts, but it can grow. You're struck by the unexpected wisdom of a child who's learned resilience the hard way. Outside, the rain intensifies, washing the world clean, or so it seems. But inside, the silence between you is broken by a sudden, startling knock at the door. It's Barry, the neighbor, holding a battered old book. I thought Lena might like this. He says, Offering the worn cover, you open it to find a collection of folk tales about healing and hope. You realize healing is a mosaic patching together stories, kindness, and moments of courage. That night, Lena falls asleep clutching the book, bare, and whisper her new arsenal against the shadows. You wonder if the secret beneath the floor will ever lose its power, or if it will simply become a chapter in her story, a dark root from which strength can grow. You ask yourself, can we ever truly escape the echoes of trauma? Or do they simply become silent companions on the path to healing? The rain continues outside, steady and persistent, like the slow work of mending broken hearts. The sun breaks through the clouds in pale streaks, casting an uneven glow across the living room where Lena sits, her fingers tracing the edges of Barry's book. You notice a shift, something subtle but undeniable, as if she's beginning to reclaim pieces of herself lost in the storm. One afternoon, she surprises you by asking about Michael, not as the ghost lurking beneath the floorboards, but as a man with hopes, fears, and a story. You tell her about his love for old jazz records, his clumsy attempts at cooking, and the way he made her laugh with silly voices. Her eyes soften, a fragile smile flickering. It's a breakthrough, but you know it's fragile. Like a glass vase taped back together still holding, but with cracks. You remember a psychological fact. Reconnecting with positive memories of lost loved ones can help children integrate traumatic experiences into a coherent narrative, fostering healing. Psychologists still debate whether this process can sometimes reopen wounds or soothe them. That night, Lena's dreams are quieter, filled with warm light and laughter. But the next day brings a surprise. Elise arrives unannounced, tentative but determined. She carries a small box inside, a few of Michael's things, a watch, a faded photo, a letter never sent. The gesture stuns you, a fragile olive branch across a chasm of pain. You watch Lena's reaction closely. She's hesitant but curious, reaching out to touch the letter. "I'm sorry," Elise whispers, "for everything." The words hang in the air, heavy with meaning. You realize forgiveness isn't a gift given lightly. It's a journey navigated at its own pace. Later, Lena draws a new picture. The fox, the bear, and a small human figure standing beneath the listening tree. You ask her what it means. "That's me," she says softly, learning to stand again. You feel a lump in your throat. In this fragile moment, you glimpse the raw beauty of resilience, how even shattered hearts can find new rhythms. A quirky tidbit comes to mind. Some cultures believe that trees have memory, that they can remember pain and joy across centuries, embodying the collective spirit of survival. You wonder if Lena's listening tree holds that same power, a silent guardian weaving stories of loss and hope. You lean down, whispering, "You're not alone." She nods, eyes shining with quiet strength. Outside, the wind stirs the leaves, carrying secrets and promises in its restless dance. The days lengthen, the light softening into early evening hues as you watch Lena grow quieter, more introspective. She no longer clings tightly to Bear and Whisper, though they rest near her bed like old friends. Instead, she carries something new, a tentative hope that blooms in the small spaces between silence and speech. One afternoon, while sorting through a box of old photographs, you stumble across a picture of Michael smiling beside a tall oak tree. Lena peers over your shoulder, her gaze lingering on the tree's broad branches. "Why is that tree so big?" she asks. "It's been standing there for decades." You say, "It's like a guardian, witnessing everything." She nods thoughtfully, tracing the outline of the tree with her finger. Later, in therapy, Lena begins to speak more openly about the night her world shattered. Her words are slow, fragmented, but laced with a raw honesty that's both heart-wrenching and hopeful. She describes the argument, the silence afterward, the confusion in her small mind. You recall a psychological fact. Trauma can fragment a child's narrative, making it difficult to form a coherent story. Psychologists still debate whether guided storytelling or spontaneous recall is more effective in trauma recovery. Your thoughts drift to the power of narrative, the way stories shape identity. How healing often begins when we can tell our truth without fear. One evening, as the sky blushes with twilight, Lena surprises you with a story she's written herself. It's about a fox who finds a secret tunnel beneath the forest floor, a place where old wounds are buried but can be uncovered and healed. Her voice trembles as she reads aloud. But there's a fierce determination beneath the vulnerability. You wonder if she's ready to face her own secret tunnels, the dark spaces beneath her own floor. That night, you find yourself reflecting on the nature of resilience, how it's not about forgetting pain, but learning to live with it, transforming scars into stories. A quirky fact floats into your mind. In Japan, there's an art called kintsugi, where broken pottery is mended with gold. Highlighting, rather than hiding the cracks, a beautiful metaphor for healing? You whisper to yourself, may Lena's story be her gold. As the house settles into quiet, you feel the weight of the journey ahead long, uncertain, but filled with the promise of light breaking through the cracks. The morning sun slips through the curtains in golden streaks, warming the quiet room where Lena sits cross-legged, her journal open on her lap. Today, she looks different, more grounded, less a fragile leaf caught in the storm. You watch as she writes, the pen moving with purpose, tracing words that once felt impossible to say. Her story unfolds a mosaic of pain, fear, and courage, a testament to the resilience growing quietly inside her. You think about the power of naming emotions, how labeling feelings can lessen their grip. Psychologists still debate whether this technique helps children process trauma or risks re-traumatization if not handled gently. Your mind drifts to the concept of emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish and articulate complex feelings, a skill that can transform suffering into understanding. That afternoon, Lena shares a drawing, a sprawling tree with golden seams where its branches were once broken. This is the listening tree, she explains. It catches all the secrets and helps them grow into something beautiful. You smile, feeling the weight of her words sink deep. But the fragile piece is interrupted by a phone call from Elise. Her voice is softer now, filled with regret and hope. She asks to visit, to talk, to try to mend the frayed threads. You hesitate, the knot of anger and fear tightening. Can the past truly be untangled? Or will it only twist tighter with every attempt? You agree cautiously, setting boundaries to protect Lena's fragile progress. When Elise arrives, the atmosphere is tense but tinged with possibility. She brings a photo album, old pictures of family dinners, birthday cakes, and laughter frozen in time. Lena flips through the pages, a flicker of recognition lighting her eyes. It's a painful reminder that love and hurt often live side by side, tangled like the roots beneath a tree. That night, Lena sleeps with the music box beside her, the melody a fragile lullaby weaving through the darkness. You wonder if healing is like this, an uneven song with notes of sorrow and hope, sometimes discordant, sometimes harmonious. A quirky fact surfaces. Some cultures use lullabies not just to soothe but to pass down ancestral memories, blending comfort with the weight of history. You ask yourself quietly, what stories will Lena carry forward? Which echoes will fade? And which will sing louder? The night deepens, wrapping the world in a gentle hush, inviting rest and reflection. The days blur into one another, a soft haze of routine punctuated by moments of fragile joy and unexpected shadows. You notice Lena's laughter growing more frequent, but beneath it, you sense a vigilance born from too many nights spent listening for dangers no longer present. One afternoon, while sorting through old belongings, you find a small box tucked away in a forgotten drawer. Inside are letters handwritten, faded, and trembling with emotion from Michael to Elise. They speak of love, regret, and a desperate wish to protect their family from the darkness looming over them. You share the letters with Lena, and her eyes well with tears. This is the part I didn't know, she whispers. You realize how much of trauma's weight lies in the unknown, the gaps where stories are left untold. Psychologists still debate whether uncovering hidden truths helps victims heal or reopens wounds best left closed. That evening, Lena draws a new picture, a house with open windows and light spilling out, as if inviting warmth back inside. You ask her what it means. It's our home, she says simply, a place where secrets don't hide anymore. But the fragile hope is tested when Elise's behavior shifts moments of kindness, shadowed by sudden coldness, and confusing Lena and deepening the scars beneath her smile. You confront Elise gently, and she admits to struggling with her own guilt and grief. It's a stark reminder that healing isn't linear, and that those who hurt can also suffer in silence. A quirky fact surfaces. Some therapists use puppetry to help children navigate confusing emotions and relationships, giving voice to what's hard to say. You wonder if Bear and Whisper have become more than toys. They're silent therapists in Lena's journey. You watch Lena tuck them in at night, whispering secrets only they can hear. In the quiet moments, you ask yourself, how do we break cycles of pain when the lines between victim and perpetrator blur? The room grows still, shadows lengthening as night descends, holding both fear and hope in its embrace. Night settles thick and heavy, like a velvet curtain drawn too tightly over the world. Lena's breath is slow and even, but your mind races, tangled in a web of questions and fears. You think about the secret beneath the floor, the hidden truth that shaped everything, and wonder how many such secrets live in the silence between us. You sit beside Lena, the glow of a small lamp casting warm shadows. Her eyes flutter open, meeting yours with an unspoken trust. You ask gently, Do you ever feel scared to tell the whole story? She nods, fingers twisting the edge of her blanket. Fear is a silent anchor, holding memories underwater where they can't be heard, or so it seems. You recall a fact. Children who experience trauma often develop what's called dissociative amnesia, a protective shield that hides painful memories but can also trap healing. Psychologists still debate whether unearthing these memories always leads to relief or sometimes deepens the pain. You tell Lena a story about a river that flows beneath the earth, sometimes visible, sometimes hidden, but always moving, reshaping the landscape. She listens, eyes wide, imagining the secret river beneath her feet. The night shifts as she begins to share a memory long buried, a moment of fear, a whispered threat, a glimmer of hope. Her voice is soft but steady, a fragile bridge between past and present. You feel the room breathe with her courage. A quirky fact drifts in. Some indigenous tribes believe that speaking your fears aloud releases them like smoke into the air, where they dissolve and lose power. You wonder if Lena's words are doing just that, turning shadows into smoke. As dawn approaches, the house feels lighter, as if a weight has been lifted. You hold her hand, feeling the pulse of resilience beneath fragile skin. The secret beneath the floor remains, but it no longer defines her. It's just one thread in a tapestry still being woven. You ask softly, what will you choose to carry forward? Her answer is simple but profound. Hope. Outside, the first light breaks, promising new beginnings in the quiet aftermath of night. The morning arrives soft and slow, the air humming with the quiet promise of renewal. Lena wakes with a calmness you haven't seen before, her eyes steady, a lightness in her step as if the weight beneath her has begun to lift. You watch her gather bear and whisper, now worn but beloved companions, symbols of a journey no longer defined by fear but by resilience. Today, she doesn't just survive, she begins to live. You think about the winding path from darkness into light, the delicate balance between holding on and letting go. Psychologists still debate whether true healing comes from confronting trauma head on, or from learning to build a new narrative that honors the past without being imprisoned by it. You recall a surprising tidbit. Some survivors describe healing as an ongoing dance, sometimes stepping back, sometimes forward, but always moving. Lena's story is no different. She shares with you a new drawing. The listening tree now blossoms with golden leaves, each one a memory transformed into strength. There's no denying the scars, but they shimmer with a strange beauty, a testament to survival. You reflect on the power of stories, how they weave us together, create bridges across silence, and breathe life into shadows. Outside, the world stirs with birdsong and the soft rustle of leaves, a gentle reminder that life, like the seasons, is always moving. In this quiet moment, you whisper to Lena, "You are more than what happened to you." She smiles, a small, fierce light kindling in her eyes. As you close the journal on this chapter, you feel the fragile thread of hope stretched taut and strong, ready to carry her into whatever comes next. A quirky fact lingers. Some cultures bury letters to lost loved ones beneath trees, believing their words nourish new growth, a beautiful metaphor for the stories we carry forward. And so, you sit in the quiet, listening to the echoes of a story once buried but now free to unfold. The journey isn't over, but for the first time, it feels like a beginning. As the quiet settles in, imagine yourself wrapped in the soft light, each breath easing tension, every heartbeat a step toward peace. Healing isn't a destination but a journey, one woven from moments of courage, grace, and gentle forgiveness. Let the echoes of this story remind you that even in the deepest shadows, light finds a way. Rest now, wrapped in the warmth of resilience, and know that tomorrow holds new possibilities. Whispered on the breeze. End of script. Sweet dreams.